Hi there, it's your favorite neighborhood nerd, Simone, and I'm here today with my currently inked for the month of December, the calendar edition. And if you've been with me in the past weeks since the end of November, you know that I pulled out some pens I wanted to use and I made some rules about the things. These are four of the pens that I thought I was going to use, but ended up not using. And I also wanted to limit myself to a specific calendar, but I realized very quickly that these are again rules that limit myself and that I shouldn't do that. And so I picked the pens that I thought went well with the inks I wanted to use. I tried to only pick inks that were sent to me in calendars. So either the Diamine Inkvent calendar, my friend Amy surprised me with a small advent calendar, and the Inkmas Swap that was organized by I Make Plans and Kristen Creates. But even that didn't all work out. And I'm going to talk about those inks that you and pens that you're going to see in this currently inked. They are 10, which if you've also been with me for a while, I had only 6 pens inked, I believe 6, in November or October. And I really enjoyed having lesser pens inked. Now, because I meant to pick all of those pens for various reasons, I had selected 10 pens, and I also just, with the amount of inks that came in, so 25 from the Diamine Inkvent, I believe, let me see, my friend Amy sent me, where did I put that? Here, so 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 inks, and then 12 inks from the Inkmas Swap, actually 13. I felt very limited in the amount of inks that I could pick, and so I decided, you know what, let's just do as many as you want. It ended up being 10, and that's okay for this month, but my goal in the future is to try and limit the amount of pens that I ink every month, to explore more, to between 6 and 8. But again, that's not a hard and fast rule. Trying to get out of that, this is how this works, I'm constricting myself in my self-imposed rules, and then I'm not enjoying it. So this month, it's 10. Let me quickly tell you what they are. This is a Hawktowns Pens Swansea XL, and I just plopped on here a Jowo medium nib. This is a Carolina Penco nib that was tuned and smoothed by Jonathan Brooks. This is the Lamy 2000 in the black Macrolon with a fine 14 karat gold nib. I do have a medium nib for this as well, but after using it once, I've quickly ventured back to the fine. I'm definitely going to use the medium again, but for everyday writing, the fine feels really good. Then I have this Relic pens with a zoom nib from the Good Blue. And so for this inking, I wanted to pull out all of those nibs that I hadn't used in a while and see how I got on with them. But as with these ones here, some of them are new nibs, new pens. I just didn't have inks that I thought would work well in these pens. And it felt to me like I would do the pens or the inks a disservice if I paired them up with these pens. And so I decided not to ink them. This one wasn't too bad. It's a zoom nib. It handles ink pretty well. I was more interested in how I would like the broader line if I felt comfortable using it. Now that I switched out of the tiny grids into lined paper, and I noticed that this also works really well in reverse, and so it's actually quite a versatile nib. This is one of those pens that I talked in my collection video about. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this or not. Right now, I'm really enjoying it. So my collection videos or the opinions I have on pens are often impressions in that specific moment, and sometimes these impressions change on a whim. Not always on a whim, but there's always reasoning behind why something isn't working or isn't working as well. This is my Skogsy low volume eyedropper with the yellow or olive green ebonite, and I have swapped out the nib and put in one of the newer nibs that I own. This is a Platinum 3776 medium 14 karat gold nib. Man, this combination of pen and nib is fabulous. I had sold all of my platinum nibs previously because I just couldn't get them to work well for me. I feel like eyedroppering these nibs is the way to go, and I had a really hard time removing the nib from the feed, from the section. My son helped me. I was so scared that we would break the feed, but we were able to do it. But this is not something that I would want to do on a regular basis. It is in the flexible nib housing now, and that's exactly where it's going to stay. This is the TWSBI Eco in white with a 1.1 stub nib. This is the only pigment ink, Forever Ink from Diamine, that I inked from the calendar. The reason why I purchased the calendar was because there were Forever Inks inside. To be honest, I learned that I don't really like the look of these Forever Inks. And so, yeah, I ended up inking one just to test it out. I went with the TWSBI because I felt like if anything is going to happen to the pen, I won't be extremely upset about it. Then this is the newest pen in my collection. It is the Asvine V800. I received this from Asvine, and I put the 1.1 stub nib on it. It's a nice pen. You are getting a lot of bang for your buck. The ink that I put in here was a test run because I loved the swatch so much. The way it feels or the way I sound, you know that this is going to be not the best. Then I pulled out, I wanted to use the FA nib again. This is the flexible nib from Pilot in the 742 size. So this is a number 10 nib. I love the way this pen flexes, and I love how I need to write with it, but I don't enjoy writing with it unflexed. But I really love the pen and nib combination, and I inked it with a very hyped ink, and I'm enjoying it a lot. Not using it much besides writing titles, but that's okay. Then I inked the Sailor Pro Gear Imperial Black with a medium 21 karat gold nib. For some reason, I'm enjoying these coated Sailor nibs just a smidge more than the regular nibs. And I put in Ruby Taffeta from the Diamine Inkvent calendar. Oh yeah, there's different inks in here. I'll show them to you later. This is the another nib that I wanted to try. This is the Jowo Elastic Fine or Flex Fine, It only flexes if you like basically push the pen nib to its limits. It feels like you're doing something that's forbidden. And I originally had it on my Bone Crusher 7 Studios, but I ended up selling both of my Bone Crusher 7 Studio pens. That was on a whim decision. It felt right in the moment. It still feels right. And I wanted to keep trying the nib, and so I put it in the SD Funky Lake. And then the last one is another Franken pen. This is the Opus 88 demo in the 2024 limited or special edition pink. There's a green one that now that I'm using this nib on this pen, I'm like, oh my goodness, I need another one of those because this works extremely well. I love the grip section, how it feels in my hand, and this is a Pilot Custom 74 nib with a medium tip, 14 karat gold, and just the combination of the nib and the pen feels amazing. I have another Custom 74 nib, and I feel like I should maybe add another Opus 88 demo for that nib into my collection. So let's show you writing samples, and I'm going to talk very briefly about my impressions of the pen and the rating. I don't want to dwell on it too much. So this is, as I said, the Hawktowns Swansea in, let's just fold this in half and use this as a writing board. This is empty basically, so I hope I can still get this to write. This is the Hawktowns Swansea XL with a resin that is called Blue Nebula, and I think it is by no, I don't remember. I need to look it up. And when I'm looking at this, I sold both of my Bone Crusher 7 pens. And I loved the way the craftsmanship for the threads are in the Bone Crusher 7 pens. However, every time I had it in my hand, it felt super clunky, and this one is similarly sized, but it tapers down more. It feels just a little more elegant, a little lighter. I will have to look it up if I'm correct, but in my mind, this is lighter. And I have it inked with a new ink to me. So this is Pannonia in collaboration with Inky Converters. You can see the ink is getting very low. Blue, and there we are. It's gone. Let me see if I can. What if I push the converter? You can see there's basically nothing left in this converter. I guess I will have to use a different pen for this then. Blue tongued. Nope. This is done. Let me just use a pen, blue tongued skink. It's a brown ink with blue pigment. It's not shimmer. And first of all, This is a Jowo nib, and I've said recently that I don't like Jowo nibs, but I didn't have a problem with this pen at all. Maybe it's just the finer Jowo nibs, but this worked really well. So great writing experience. I think if I had thought a little more about this ink, I probably wouldn't have bought it, because the shimmer that is added to this ink is pigment, blue pigment, and I've had another Pannonia ink in collaboration with Ink Dependence, Cheerio Water Buzz, where for me, in any of the pens that I had put in that ink, it never showed anywhere in the writing, and I didn't see a reason why that was special, what it did. And this brown is okay, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. So I just fell into the FOMO trap, and I have it now, but it's definitely not one that is outstandingly amazing just because there is this pigment inside. I have not seen it in the writing at all. So the blue pigment isn't visible. I definitely have to admit I fell for FOMO. This was my fountain pen day purchase. So, okay. I would give this a B, just because of the ink, not because of the pen itself. It worked really well. I want to quickly show you what the ink actually looks like with pigment when it's in a swatch. There you can see the blue, but in the writing there is nothing to be seen. Yeah, brown ink with blue shimmer. It's definitely not shimmer, it's blue pigment. It doesn't show for me in writing. Maybe this is what I need to do with the ink. That's okay. That's why I gave this a B. Now, next one. This is already way too long. This is the Lamy 2000 Black Macrolon. With a fine 14 karat nib, and the ink that is in here is Sailor, Tea Time, Japanese, Tea Ceremony, and every time I use this pen, I'm excited about the writing experience. It is a little narrow, and it feels not super comfortable for longer writing sessions, but the writing experience with the nib outweighs the discomfort that I have when I'm writing with it, because it's just so good. If I have to, like, even though it doesn't show up on my top 5 lists of all times or of 2025, I didn't buy it in 2025, but if I'm thinking about it now and how my excitement for this nib keeps growing and keeps coming up no matter what ink I throw at it, maybe I need to reconsider my top 5, because this is just amazing. And the ink, every swatch that I saw, it looked more Kelly green than this. And I swatched it and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to put this ink into a pen. I really like it, and I like it even more in a pen. I might have to purchase a bottle of this ink because I really like it, and it's not an ink that I have in my collection yet. I love the writing experience. This green is fabulous. This is just outstanding. This is an outstanding combination. And I think I am going to give this an A+. Now, as I've always said that, I don't know, feels so subjective. There is no real rhyme or reason on why. My friend Kristen recently came up with a point system for inks and rating system on how many points she gives for sheen, shimmer, the flow and all that. And I feel like maybe if I can come up with a rating system that is similar to that ink rating system for pen and ink pairings, that would be the way to go. So it feels less subjective and more objectively speaking. This one is awesome. And I think I already messed up my order of pens and inks that I wanted to share, but that's okay. No, actually, it's right. As I said, this is the Relic Pens Purple Glitter Bomb is, I think, Inks and Anchors, who was the first owner. I'm the third, at least the third owner of this pen. With the Good Blue zoom nib, and you saw how much ink this brings out, and I think this ink is one of my favorites from the Diamine Inkvent calendar. This is Relic Pens, purple glitter with a zoom nib from the Good Blue. This is a steel nib. Let me show you the reverse. I really enjoy this. I have a writing sample for you where I used that specific technique, and I really like how that turned out. So this is where I used the right side of the nib, and this is where I used the reverse. It was wet and wrote, and I really like the versatility of this nib. I think I should use it more often. This is Diamine Fur and Fog. Not sure if you can see any shimmer. This is supposed to be a chameleon ink, I believe. I think it's right here. Yep, chameleon, pink and green shimmer. There's pink. I see pink, you see green. Let me see if I can make the pink appear. Nope, at least not through the camera. Can't seem to see it. I really loved this play time. I like the ink. It looks a little more green than on the here, but I don't think I see any shimmer in the writing. But also, I don't really care. I like the color just as it is. But what stood out to me specifically, I wasn't sure. And the zoom nib, you could have a finer line if you hold your pen higher up. Wasn't sure if I liked this nib, but I really dig it. Especially after the reverse experience. The ink is La La. I like the ink color. There's no shimmer, so that's basically docking a point. So I'll give this an A. It doesn't have to have the shimmer for me, but if it's calling itself a shimmer ink, then it should show shimmer in the writing, right? So that's kind of a bummer. Now, this is an amazing pen. I feel like this is a huge fail, in my opinion. I loved the ink in the swatch when I spoiled it. I loved the ink when I did my ink play, and I just cannot get on with this ink in the pen. Now, I will explain to you why that's how I feel about it. The ink looks so interesting in the swatches, it looks so interesting in the ink play, and it just dries to this brown, yellow brownish sheen. And it's even finicky as a sheen. If I stop to think about my writing, then it will hard start. So it dries out in seconds. This is the Skogsy low volume eyedropper. Let's say yellow ebonite. I need to figure out which one that is, if it's green or yellow. With a medium 14 karat 3776 nib. And the ink is Diamine Molten Basalt. I like how this ink flows. I like the writing experience with the medium 3776 nib. I just don't like the sheen. I'm not a sheen ink person, and that totally, I wanted to see something that is more like what I'm seeing in the play, and maybe, you know, like this teal under here, and then a little bit of sheen, the blue that is coming out here, nothing of this. The interesting things that I can see here is visible when I'm writing in a medium line. And I'm not sure that this would ever come out in any nib size, because, I mean, there's no water involved in writing. And so, yeah, I was so hopeful. This was one of my favorite inks. It's not anymore, and I'm a little bummed about this. A plus, nib and pen. The ink, though, was disappointing. I wanted more. So I'm actually going to rate this a C+. Yep, that is harsh. At some point, I actually debated uninking this and putting in Frostbite, which is another amazing color. I think it's in here. It's also blue, but I feel like in the writing it might be more interesting, or I'm just telling myself that. Probably not. I probably would be disappointed as well. There's some red sheen here. So if I had a similar, maybe it would be the same. Maybe it would be the same. I don't know. You tell me. Are you a sheen person? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm just not. And this is the pigment ink in the TWSBI Eco with the 1.1 stub. This is called Burr, which I think is such a stupid name. Obviously, because the ink is still wet, I am able to get it to move. We can try it later when this is dry and see what it does when there is no when it's dry, and see if there is movement of the ink. This is the TWSBI Eco White with a 1.1 stub nib, and the ink is Diamine Burr. 3 R's. Yeah, so what I'm learning is that I really like the ink when it's wet. When it dries down, it becomes very dull. The ink is lovely when it's wet. It is just so dried. I like the 1.1 stub nib quite a bit, actually. Pen is okay. This is not a pen that I would choose if I was choosing for looks. It's not a pen that I feel very comfortable in my hand, but it definitely is a pen that I will choose when I am not sure about an ink, when I need a reliable pen that seals well. Then I will choose the TWSBI. This is a B, probably a B minus. Yeah, it's okay. It's not something that I will use more. So as you can see, there is some shading and stuff going on when it's wet, but when it's dry, it feels very flat, and that's a bummer, actually. Now, the Asvine V800 is a vacuum filler pen. I like it. I've inked it up yesterday, so I tried it, I used it a little bit. I wanted to see what the ink looks like. Oh, I wanted to show you how this looks in. What day is that, actually? Do we know? Do we remember? Right here. There is shimmer right here, and I really like the shimmer, actually. There seems to be some yellowish splitting going on, and when applied with a lot of ink, then you will see a little bit of shading, but in the writing it looks flat, and that's exactly what happens here. No shimmer. Overcast is day number 19. Look at how amazing this looks. This is an ink that we're more used to seeing from Troublemaker, Vinta, Pannonia, all those small makers with those chroma shading inks. Sailor is something that comes to mind that does these chroma shading inks really well, and it looked super promising in this play. I find it almost illegible. Well, if I were inking this in a pen, and that's exactly how I feel about it right now, it's too light for me. Transparent silver with a 1.1 stub. This is Diamine Overcast. And it looks much more boring in the pen. When it dries, it shades so much that it's really hard to read as well. The ink flows really wet out of this nib, so there's no problem with the ink flow. It's just light, and as we all know, I'm not a fan of light inks, light like this. I was hoping for the ink to prove me wrong. No such luck. The pen is amazing. I think I am looking for pens that I can use like TWSBI Ecos. I have not had success with TWSBI Ecos in the past. I don't want to spend my money on TWSBI Ecos, but I do want to have pens that are very affordable, that I can throw an ink in that I'm not sure about, like this pigment ink here. And I think in both the Asvine C80 as well as the Asvine V800, I have found comparable pens to the TWSBI Eco. With this one, I haven't inked long enough to say how the evaporation is, how it will start when it's been in the pen. The ink has been in the pen for a while. The C80 is great, and so I'm not super concerned about this, but if I need more pens like this that will hold random weird inks, I will definitely grab the Asvine pens that I now have in my collection instead of my TWSBI Ecos. Which brings me to, I recently purchased a TWSBI Eco in an extra fine nib, and I was on the cusp of maybe I'm going to sell it, maybe I'm not, and a friend had reached out and I wasn't sure, but this experience right now is definitely helping me making that decision. Here you can see how much it shades. There's some purple hues in there. This is lovely if you love this. I find it very hard to read, and I just don't enjoy inks like that in my pens. This is a Mayfair, and the FA nib is amazing. I don't personally enjoy writing with it unflexed. It feels very fragile, and I'm afraid I'm gonna break something. And so I'm not using it for journal entries, but I might be using it for book titles in my reading journal, and I really love it for that. So this is my Mayfair. Arkenstone. I need to reach out to a Ben and ask again what all the resins are. It might be a Pens by Pasquale resin, but I'm not sure. It could also be Enigma Stationery. They have blanks like this. It didn't have a name. This is an eyedropper fill pen. You unscrew the nib unit and fill it through that hole. Put some silicone grease on the threads of the nib unit and then screw it back in, and that's how this works. I really like the way it does. It works extremely well with this nib. I don't have a lot of problems with flow. This is an ebonite feed from Flexible Nib Factory, and this ink is Kobe Strawberry. And I think now that I'm looking at this strawberry chocolate ink is very light. It might be similar to that Diamine Overcast in a regular fountain pen. But I really enjoy how it performs in this flex nib. And I think that maybe if I put Overcast into this pen, it would perform more to my liking. So that is definitely something that I'll try in the future. When it's wet, it reminds me a lot of Tachia Umemurasaki, but when it's dry, it's a little more pink, I think. I love this. The only downside to this is that I don't have many use cases for it. And now I'll show you how I write with it. The thing is, you can't apply a lot of pressure, and then suddenly my handwriting is tiny and I'm squeezing into these boxes. I don't have many use cases. But that's okay. Especially when I'm adding books to my reading journal. I love having this, being able to add titles into the book journal. This ink might be a little dry because it felt harder to write in here. Like here I had to restart the writing. I don't know if I can see this anywhere else. Not really. Maybe also because it's a long word and I was writing too fast, but I love how this looks. I love to use this pen in this journal for that reason. And you might wonder, well, you have this pen and you're just using it for this. And sometimes I am someone who would never keep a pen just to make titles like that. But it brings me so much joy that I have no qualms keeping that pen. So this gets an A from me, even though it's just so limited in its use. Now this is a shimmer, and maybe I should have agitated all the other pens as well with the shimmer inks. Maybe that would have gotten us to a different result. That's one of the reasons why I'm not really a big shimmer ink user, because I just don't bother with these types of things. I forget, it's not important to me, and then I'm not necessarily disappointed, but it doesn't represent the ink well. But also I feel like, why would I have to do all of that trouble to just write with a pen? I do have shimmer inks in my collection, but they're far and few in between, only when they're really outstanding. So this is my Sailor Pro Gear Imperial Black with a medium 21 karat gold nib. This one is a 14 karat. The ink that is in here is Diamine Ruby. Not sure if it's taffeta or taffeta, but I think because it's two F's, the pronunciation is like the importance is on the taffeta, but you will let me know if you know what it is. Also, this is ink. This is a very muted color palette so far, and this ink is just so red. But it performs really well. It performs extremely well. Well, the nib is still one of my favorites, And the tactile feel of this matte black resin here is just, I pulled it out because I hadn't used it recently. I've been focused on all of my maker pens that I Frankensteined. I have a medium Sailor Pro Gear nib that I can put into one of these pens. But there's something about this specific pen that is just really lovely. The haptic feeling of the pen is just... So I think what I'm going to do is give this an A+, because it's just so perfect. The only thing that is just jarring every time I write with it is how red it is. It's just, wow! Now, okay, let's talk about this. This is the Elastic Fine in the SD Funky Lake. This is the very last SD that I own at the moment, and I think it's gonna stay. I also don't think I'm gonna swap it out for a different model. I'm SD'd out. I liked them for a while. I kept my favorite color, and I feel like I'm good. The pen is comfortable for sure for my hand. It posts okay, it works. I don't think I post it usually. The nib is really wet. This feels kind of scratchy right now, which I'm surprised about because that's not how this was before. Funky Lake. With a, I call it fine flex, but if I flex this, it doesn't look even close to here. Maybe we can flex right the ink. This is Tono and Limbs. Like, I have to put a lot of pressure on this to even get this line variation. Silent, no, holy. This is the only ink that didn't come in any of these calendars. I purchased this recently and I felt like, why would I limit myself to these calendars when I have the perfect Christmas ink in my collection and I'm not allowing myself to use it? Doesn't make sense. This nib is just really wet, which I like. When I was writing with it, I did have a very weird hand feeling. And I thought it was the pen, but then I moved it over and I still feel very crampy when I'm writing with this. So maybe it's the nib, maybe it's the steel that is just so hard. I don't know. I will have to investigate further, but this writing experience definitely led me to selling my Bone Crusher 7 Studio pens. And even if it wasn't just a writing experience, I'm okay with that decision, because before that experience that it felt kind of crampy and I didn't know if it was the bigger girth that those pens have compared to some of the other pens. I skipped over them very frequently, and so there must have been something that just didn't make me want to use them over many of the other maker pens that I own. And so it's okay to let pens be in my collection for a little while and then just move them along until I feel maybe I find other pens that work well for me. Now, I'm not sure that I'm going to get another Bone Crusher 7 Studios pens because he recently raised his prices and my eyes almost popped out of my eye sockets when I saw them. I don't see the value in the price increase. Like, what am I getting for the pen, I'm just not seeing that, cannot make the connection. I would pay more, and I'm paying more for several Maker pens. I have paid more for several Maker pens. But yeah, it sounds judgy, but there is like, if I have just a resin that is the same thing for the grip section, the barrel and the cap, and I'm not, I'm doing this should be less expensive than this, or even this, and Ben's pens are below 200, I think. Not sure, maybe he also increased his prices slightly, but that was just a huge price increase. This is artistic. This is not just craftsmanship. This is also artistry. This is just craftsmanship. And either you excel in both, then you can increase your prices by a lot, or you only excel in one. And then your pens, the price for your pens should reflect that, in my personal opinion. Of course, this ink is lovely. I think I've only had it in this pen. I think it is a little dry, so I'm glad I've had it in this wet pen. The SD is comfortable. Not sure if I'm enjoying the nib. So I'm gonna give this an A-, because that is just, it's a weird thing. Like, I can write with this pen nib without any, I can just write with my regular writing pressure with this nib, and the lines and everything look good compared to the FA nib from Pilot, which I have a lot of trouble to not put too much pressure on so that it writes in a consistent line without having these broader strokes. So this is definitely more, this is a modern flex nib, but it's a flex nib. This is not sure what it is. And I can use it for regular writing, and I like that it's wet, but I'm not sure if it makes my hand feel fatigued earlier, and that's why I'm giving it an A-. I love the ink. The ink is just, oh. Then we have this one, and I might actually say that this is my favorite pen and ink combination of this whole, not just pen and ink and nib combination of this whole month. Ugh. I love Pilot medium nibs, and especially this Custom 74 medium nib that I've had for a long time now. I can throw almost anything at this pen and nib, and unless it's a super dry ink, it handles it with, just so amazing. Can you see that there is actual shimmer? Look at this. Where's shimmer in any of the other? None. This one shows shimmer. I have no idea. I have heard so many people say that Pilot nibs don't do that well, but this Pilot nib, this specific one, has done this ever since I owned it. This is an Opus 88 demo in pink, and it has a medium Pilot 74 nib, 14K, and the ink is Diamine Nostalgia. And I agree with you that these inks are very similar, but it's a different writing experience because it's different nibs. And man, this nib is amazing. I love it. I droppered in this pen. It is the ink I adore. The ink, this ink, perfection. Yes. So this is an A+, and then let's quickly sort and rank them by their experience, by how I felt about them. I think I already know that this is going to be number 1. The green I love just a little more than the red of Ruby Taffeta. Then let's see, we have 2 A's. It's the Relic pens and this one, and I think I like that just a tad bit more. Or this one. I love the flex. I think this is how I feel about this more. Then I have an A-, which is this one. Then what else do we have? We had B+ for this one. We had a B for this one. What is this one? A B-. Even though I graded those this way, I think I like this just a tad bit more. Did I though? Yeah, I think I am gonna rate this B+ as well, just because I don't think this is better than this one. And also this way I can put this right here, and then this goes here, and this goes here. Oh my God, my Skogsy is on the last place, but it's the ink. This was just such a disappointment, even more disappointing than the Overcast, which is weird. So let me quickly show you the other. So I didn't do a ink exploration for the strawberry chocolate because I just don't have enough of that ink to do that. I just purchased another sample just so that I can explore it like this. Here's Nostalgia. I like this a lot. And then Overcast I already showed you. And then the other one, Holy Night, is right here as well. Where is that though? Right here. So there is a little bit of a difference. This is more blue than this. This is more pink leaning. This is more blue leaning. And actually, it is a little less exciting in the watered down version than Nostalgia. Nostalgia just has a little bit more pizzazz to it, but I like it in the writing a lot. And then Ruby Taffeta is right here. I like that as well. I really liked the shimmer on this. It's pink shimmer, and I think there's another color, maybe green or gold. I'm not sure. But here's pink. I just really liked that red right here. It's just very appealing. It's a really nice, cozy red, if that makes sense. But in this whole palette, it stands out because it's just so bright. All right, thank you so much for watching. That was a long currently inked video. I hope to have shorter ones with writing samples and then a second video with my review. Just didn't work out that way for December and November, but maybe in February. I don't think January will be allowing as well, as I'm traveling to the Philadelphia Pen Show, but we will see. I hope to see you again soon. Christmas is over. I hope if you celebrated, you survived. I hope you had a good time. I hope you didn't stress yourself out. And yeah, I hope to see you soon, maybe before the new year, but if I don't, I hope you have a good start to the new year. Happy 2026. The days are getting longer. We are going to get through this winter and enjoy spring, summer, and the fall of 2026. I can't believe, wow. You know what 2027 is? My 50th birthday. So, let's go and do this and have a lot of fun while playing with all the things that bring us joy so we can get through this. Until next time, bye.